Hello everyone, welcome to CiviCRM TV episode 17. Sorry, my dog's got his ball under my desk. Welcome to CiviCRM TV episode 17. I don't know if I said 16 before, but it's 17. Firstly, sorry for missing the last couple of weeks. We've been a bit snowed under, so I've not had the chance to do it. And also, we wanted to prepare this kind of Mautic email marketing stuff, so that took a bit longer than expected, i.e. it needed more resource to prep the session. So just to give some context to whoever's watching / listening, this session is just dealing with part one of CiviCRM and Mautic, which is about the installation of the extension that connects the two systems together. It's going to be quite technical. It's not aimed at people who are trying to work out what Mautic is or how it could be useful for CiviCRM. We will do that in later parts, but this particular episode is purely about installation and just proving that you can get up and running on it. So if you are non-techie, then you're probably not gonna find this too useful. I mean, obviously you're more than welcome to stick around, and if you do have questions, the chat is there. Please do feel free to jump on and ask any questions. But it is going to get quite technical, and just bear with us if you're not particularly technical yourself. Also, apologies for my fish tank. It's decided to be quite loud like usual. Picks the right time. So, okay, so let's get on then. So, so what we're looking at is we Veda Consulting have recently, when I say recently, in the past 12 months, maybe it was 6 months ago, that we released an extension that connects CiviCRM and Mautic together. In a nutshell, Mautic is a kind of email marketing tool. I say email marketing. Those are the two words I didn't want to use, and I've used them both. It's an automation tool, right? So the idea is that it can make decisions, it can listen to events, and it can tailor journeys that you want people to go on. It's also open source like CiviCRM, and it's widely used, right? So it's a common tool for marketing stroke email automation. Now in the CRM sector and in the not-for-profit world, that sounds a bit like a for-profit area and not something you're necessarily interested in, but it is a very powerful thing to do, right? So we're obviously, Veda Consulting is a CiviCRM consultancy, and we don't do anything but CiviCRM. So you might find it weird as why have we done an integration with Mautic, or why are we even talking about Mautic when Civi can do some, if not all, of what Mautic can do, Civi and Drupal or WordPress or Joomla. So the reason that we have done this integration is because it's a bit like when we did the Mailchimp integration, and when we've done direct debit integration, and when we've done postcode integration and all the other kind of integrations. So yes, Civi can do automation. It can do using Civi rules and using groups and smart groups and all this kind of stuff, and triggers and bits of code here and there, and contact form and form processors. Yes, you can do it. You can get there, but there are specialists in sectors. So, for instance, there are Mautic specialists, and you may be an organisation that already has Mautic in place and it's working well for you, and you want to go to CiviCRM. But you will continue using Mautic, and you need a way to get data across from either system. So you might be in that category. So as a CiviCRM consultancy, what I don't want to say to you is you've got to drop Mautic and you've got to use Civi only. That's not really, that's not maximizing the tool set that you've got, and it's not giving you any value for for money on the solution. So you've probably invested already, etc., and you've got your processes set out, and then you're going to have to restart just because we're saying Civi can do what you need, what Mautic does for you. So that's one reason. The other reason is that yes, Civi can do it, but it is an involved process doing all of that in Civi. It's not necessarily straightforward. It's not easily visible through the UI for an administrator to connect all those pieces together and to see a kind of holistic view of, okay, what is my system going to do? That's not necessarily straightforward. So from my position, obviously I'm Parvez, I'm the founder of Veda Consulting, and from my position I always try to use the best tool for the job. I'm not saying Mautic's better than Civi. I'm kind of saying that, but I'm not really saying that. What I'm saying is, for marketing automation, i.e. controlling user journeys without any kind of manual interaction necessarily, Mautic is a better fit, right? It has more automation tools. It's a more mature marketing product, right? So it makes sense to use the best tool for the job. So if you are a Mautic user, or you already got Mautic experience and you've got Civi at your organization that you're working at, there is absolutely no reason not to use Mautic, right? So what you want to do is get Civi and Mautic to talk. So that's why we've created this extension. It was with the help with ourselves, Vital Ego Society, Matt Wire, and we've had a bit of interactions with a few different people, but we're just pushing it out now a little bit more so that we're encouraging others to use it. So what I'm going to do in this episode is purely is a pure install. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm going to do a basic configuration just to prove that it works. But I just wanted to talk through the install, and a few people were saying they couldn't get it to do what they wanted it to do, or couldn't get it to install cleanly. So this is just that first stage in the process. And then, like I say, in later parts we'll come on to how to configure it, what level of integration capabilities is there in the system as it stands, why would you use it, and a bit of an overview on Mautic. I don't intend for the CiviCRM.Tea sessions to become dedicated towards Mautic. We might touch on it, and we might point you in the direction of some really good Mautic training videos, but we don't necessarily want to reproduce Mautic content into CiviCRM world. What we can do is relate it to the not-for-profit sector. So for instance, if you're a membership organization, why would you consider using Mautic, and what can Mautic do for you that Civi on its own can't, or can't do easily? Or if you're an events organization that runs a lot of events, what can Mautic do for you? Why would you use it, etc., etc. So we'll come on to those in later parts, but part one is purely installation. So as a true kind of last minute style, we did a release yesterday of there was a couple of bits of feedback that I had for the team about a few bits and bobs. So those bits of bobs have been released out, and we've also tested it on the latest Civi. So I'm running it on 5.2.8. You'll see that 5.3.8, I think. We'll see in a minute. But we've tested it on those, and it's all working fine. And this is Mautic free compatible, so it should be absolutely fine. I'm just going to go to the README. So at the moment, this isn't yet available for download directly into CiviCRM. So you got to do the manual implementation or installation, if you like. So let's just read through this. So, like I say, Vital Ego Society helped out with the some of the concepts and testing of the system stroke integration. So what does it do? It's a push sync. So if you've used our Mautic integration, you'll be familiar with the kind of sync processes. So there's a push from CiviCRM to Mautic. That's in terms of synchronizing groups, right? So in Mautic it's called a segment. In Civi we call it a group, but I often describe it as a segment. But what we're talking about is syncing the two. We've got the ability for rules to trigger Mautic webhooks. So, for instance, if I've got a membership drive and I've got a group of potential members, if someone becomes a member, I can fire a webhook in Mautic. So I can use rules to say, well, this person's now a member, so take them out of this. Take them out of the prospects group and put them into the members group, and at the same time let Mautic know that it shouldn't do any more marketing to this person. They're not in that group anymore. So there's that that can Civi rules that can trigger Mautic webhooks and carry out an action. So this is a bit more on what the rules can do. So in terms of how they can affect a Mautic entity. And these, like, I'll go into these in later episodes. This episode won't go into this in too much detail. And obviously when the rule fires and it does something, it's got some actions that it can do. So in terms of, I think this is Civi rules. There is a rule about data coming back into Civi. It's still about creating a contact from Mautic webhook. So it's a two-way sync in effect, in a nutshell. If there is an impact in Mautic, we can get Civi to react to that. So Mautic telling Civi that this happened, so therefore you need to do something. So Mautic, again, quite powerful. You can set up forms within Mautic or monitoring within Mautic that will look for events and it will do things. So then it can then tell Civi what to do. So you're kind of using a bit like a Zapier style connection of systems rather than independent systems doing their own things. So prerequisites, you will need Mautic. So I have a Mautic running here. It's a pretty clean Mautic. We don't. This is a demo one, so it's not one that is being used. And what else do I need? So I've got file access and I've got root access into it. Civi rules is strongly recommended. It is when I get to the stage that I'm going to actually configure some Mautic integration. Right now I'm not going to get to that stage, so I'm going to do some real Mickey Mouse kind of stuff. So I don't need to worry about rules right now. So installing extension, let's start there then. So download the extension from da-di-da. So I've got it there, so I'm going to just copy that. So I have all of these commands already ready, so I'm just gonna, let me just fire up my terminal, hidden it. So let's go here. So I've got my terminal. Let me get into the server. Sorry, that's my bearings. I was wondering why I was asking for a password. I was expecting a SSH key, but it's a demo server, so it doesn't really matter. All right, so I am in now. So I'm going to go to again. I've got all this already. I don't want to be typing it all in, so I'm going to navigate to my extensions directory. So that's my extensions. Let's get rid of this 1.1. I always see that and it irritates me. So let's dump that. Let's do that again. So I'm just cleaning up this directory. Not something I should be doing during a demo, but I am. So right. So now it's a bit cleaner. So let's go back. So I've got my, so you basically just right click and get the URL for the latest version, whatever it shows you. So I've got that already. So I've got 1.3 there. So it's called 1.3. I could have, I could use wget better and actually name the file, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to expand it anyway. So I'm going to now extract that, and now I've got my CiviCRM Mautic 1.3 in place. I am going to rename that because I don't want it to be called 1.3. So let's just have a look. So now I've got it without the 1.3 bit at the end. And now I'm just going to sort the permissions out because this is owned by root, so is that, and these things shouldn't be owned by root. So let's sort that out. So that's better. Now everything's owned by Apache, and just to finish this off, I'm going to get rid of this. No, sorry about these. I'm going to be making a lot of this sort of mistake because we just changed the permissions on this particular server. So I've got to sudo everything now. Okay, doke. So that is looking like I've got Mautic ready to install into Civi. So let's switch back. Let's go back here. Let's go into my Civi. So I've got my 7. Let's log in. So this is a Drupal CiviCRM install. Don't know what it's saying. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's complaining about something. So let's go and have a look at the extensions. So, so I'm just going to upgrade this stuff because I don't want it complaining about other bits and pieces. And I'm also going to upgrade that AuthX one. Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, I'm going to install that one as well because this is now required for the latest version of Civi. Well, with what we've got, the form builder thing. So there's a few extra bits there. So because I've downloaded the Mautic extension in, now I've got the ability to install it, right? So let's go ahead and install that. Yes, please. Okay, doke. Ignore that. I don't think that's necessarily related to the install of the extension. So now that I've installed it, I end up with a Mautic menu under the admin section. So if I go into Mautic settings, so I can see now I've got some things here to do. So, you know, to me, the installation of the extension itself has worked cleanly there. So I need to go back and just see what else am I supposed to do. Okay, so I've done all those bits. There is a Docker of Mautic if you need it. That's sometimes the easiest way to get test environments up and running so you can try stuff out. So getting started. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a dedicated user on Mautic. Now this user is going to be the one that is used for CiviCRM and Mautic to talk, right? So that's why we need to create one. So just come in here. So the Mautic, let me make this a bit bigger. There you go. So up in the top left, you can't see it because it's behind the little thumbnail. Is the settings menu, and in the settings menu, we've got users down there. Typical. Right. So my login is expired. Let me just get logged back into it. Logged in. So back there, go to the users. So I've got one user in at the moment. I'm going to create a new one. And I'm going to call it on TV. Again, with the roles, I've just got one role in my Mautic because it's a plain install. But if you do have multiple rows and multiple roles and permission set up, then you need to make sure that this user has the API permissioning. So I think we've clarified here. So it needs full API, webhook, and contact permissions. So if you are using multiple roles, then just make sure the one that they've been assigned has those functions. So I'm going to come back here. Oh no, I don't want to come back here. I want to come back here. So I was creating that user. So I've got CiviCRM.Tea, no position. and I'm going to call this, I'm going to give it the username of CiviCRM, and I'm going to give it I'll give it, I'll see if this works. It might complain because I had a different user under my name, so let's see what it does, and I'm going to give it a password. Okie dokie, so save that. Does that work? This Mautic does do this, it does like doing this, so let's see if that. Yeah, seems to do that to me quite a lot. So that is CiviCRM. I'm going to give it a random email address because it doesn't matter. I'm not using the email address for this user. Okay, there you go. So if I go back to my users now, go the right way. Let's go back to my users. Now I've got CiviCRM.Tea one is an admin as well, but like I say, you would make sure it's got the right role with the right permissions. Okay, so I have done that step. I've created my user, enable Mautic's API. So navigate to settings, configuration, API settings. So let's do that. Settings, configuration, API settings. So the API is enabled. There is a section in the help that talks about HTTP basic authentication. We're going to use OAuth 2, so we don't need that authentication turned on. And OAuth is also going to be deprecated soon from the Mautic installation. So my recommendation, and our recommendation is to stick to OAuth 2 for the integration between the two systems. So I've made sure the API is enabled. I'm not going to do anything with HTTP basic authentication. I'm fine with tokens and stuff like that. I mean, you can adjust these if you start getting performance issues, or you want to, there's certain things you want to do. You can look at adjusting those, but I'm going to leave it as stock, so that's fine. I don't need to make any changes to mine. So Mautic provides OAuth 1 and OAuth 2. So HTTP basic authentication can be used if you want to testing locally. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to turn this on. If you introduce OAuth, go to settings, API credentials, click new. So when we're talking about OAuth here, we're talking about 1 or 2. So we're going to use OAuth 2, so we need to make sure we do this. So settings, API credentials, let's just do that. API credentials. So no credentials, so I need to do whatever it's asking me to do. Click new, I can do that. And OAuth 2, I don't want 1. Like I say, it's going to be deprecated soon. And I'm going to name this these credentials as let's not call it. I want to call it CiviCRM.Tea integration. All right, so I know from Mautic that this is to do with CiviCRM. So if there's ever any need to switch it off or to isolate systems, I know which one is used. Okay, so I've done that. Give it a name. I have. So the redirect URL is formed like this. So I need to take that last bit and then take the bit from my demo. So in effect, for my Drupal demo, I've got D7, the main domain of the installation, then CiviCRM admin Mautic connection. Right, so that's my redirect URL. So let's apply that. So now I've got my client ID and my secret key. Right, so that's what we're going to need on the Civi side to set up the integration. So just make sure it says that. Oh, could have got it the easy way then, right? So it's printed. There you go. So there it is. Helps if you read the instructions in it. So anyway, that's I could have just dumped that in there. Just make sure I've got that the same. Yeah, that's fine. I've got it right, so that's fine. So where are we? Let's go back. They do right. Once the credentials are created, a pair of yes, you will need these. Yep. Clear the Mautic cache. So Mautic is a bit funny about its cache, so we do need to clear it. I think before I clear it, let me create the segment so so that I don't have to go back into the URL and into the site, because once I have to go into the terminal and switch the views. So I'm gonna just let's do that new segment. So I've got a few segments in here where I've been messing about. So let me create a new one, and I'm gonna call it TV episode 17, and I'm going to call this let's call it prospects, right? So ADS note, the public name is my charity. Right, let's just call it charity. It's called my association prospect. So like I say, I'm just mimicking a user case where I've got I'm a membership organization, and I've got a bunch of contacts in my CRM, some of whom are members, but a lot of whom are not. And I, as a membership organization, I'll probably one of my primary drivers is either to get people to join or to get them to attend our events. So there might be multiple prospect lists that I end up creating, but one of the main one of the most obvious use cases for Mautic is helping you to drive those prospects and to turn them into members, to communicate with them correctly, regularly, with good quality content that they look to become members, and also to react to what they're doing. So if we're sending them content and they're not reading it, or they're not opening it, or they're not visiting the site, then I need to treat them a different way. But if they're actually going ahead and reading and then not getting to to the next stages, or they're not booking onto events, I might approach them differently. So Mautic has all those kind of features built into it. So regardless, I've got a segment in Mautic now who I will want to communicate with. I'm not making it available on the preference center, so if somebody does want to change their comms preferences from Mautic, they can't see this, they can't get in and out of this. And with the Civi integration, you're probably going to use the CiviCRM mailing preferences anyway. So I would come out of the Civi side of the group, not the Mautic side, and that will sync to Mautic anyway and take them out of this segment. All right, that's enough talking. Let's apply that. So I've created my segment. So let's come back in here. Come on. So there's my TV episode 17 prospects. Okay, I have no contacts in there. Is that? Yeah, I think that's saying I have no contacts in there. All right, cool. So I've done that. Let's go back here. Like I said, I skipped that. I skipped a bit. So what I haven't done is gone in and cleared the cache. So let me just, again, I'll just flip this. What happened there? So let me just sort this out. All right, cool. That's that. So I need to log into the Mautic server. I don't know why I'm doing that. Let's go back this way. I'm just going to open another thing. It's not switching views. Alright. So let me exit this in that case, and let's go into the Mautic server. Okay, so I'm in the Mautic server. I know where my cache is, so I'm just going to clear it out. And depending on your Mautic installation, it will be somewhere similar. So I've cleared it out now. So what I'm doing there is, because I've set up new authentication methods and turned on some potential things that weren't on before. Mautic kind of keeps a lot of cache stuff, so it might not reflect those changes. So just as a safety thing, I normally just clear out the cache when I'm making this kind of configuration change. All right, so we have done what it's suggesting. Let's go back here. So I've created a segment as well. So now I can go back into Civi. Oh, let's go back to the screen. I'm on the wrong screen. So I've created the segment. So now I can go back into Civi and complete this integration. So let's go back here. So the Mautic Base URL. So this is where you need to be a little bit careful. So even I made this mistake earlier today. So the base URL should not include the trailing /, right? So when you do it in Google Chrome or some other browsers, it automatically adds it in. You saw me quite clearly not take it, but it's put it back in. So I'm taking it off. Got to remember to take it off. We are going to patch this so that it automatically drops any trailing slashes. So if you do leave it on by default, it won't keep it when it hits the database. So now I need my client ID and my client secret. So let's go back here. That's my client ID. And let's take my client secret. Yep. And I'm not going to talk about this right now. We'll talk about this as part of how the integration works, right? Right now, all I want to do is get async from Civi to Mautic working. Webhooks are about the other way around. So it's Mautic events and how they are handled back in Civi. But right now, I'm not going to do that, right? So right now, I'm just trying to get this up and running, and I just want to make sure that it's connected and they are talking. That's my primary goal for this session. All right, so I think I'm good there. So I'm going to save that. Right, so because it's OAuth, it's the usual OAuth stuff. I need to authorize, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so that's better than I had before, because before I was making a mess of this. So I need to authenticate with the CiviCRM user, right? So I created that user specifically to let Civi and Mautic talk. So those are credentials that I should use when I'm doing this authorization. So let's log in. I'm going to accept that. Not now, thank you. All right, cool. So that is connected, and everything seems happy, right? So connection to Mautic was successful. We're aware that this isn't quite showing right. It's not showing the version right, but we're going to fix that as part of the next set of patches. And I've got my webhook security key, and I've got the I've got the rest of it. So what the integration will do is it will create a Mautic a CiviCRM contact ID in Mautic, so that in Civi you can see, in Mautic you can see which Civi contact this person is, right? And that's the main kind of driver between the two systems to work out who's who and whether the sync has worked or not worked, or whether it's a new person or blah blah blah. In the Mautic extension, it was done very differently, and it's very problematic because it's not a key. Whereas in Mautic, we tried to make it a very clean contact ID, so that way we know there's not going to be duplicates, and it's not going to change between, for a contact, it's not going to change. You may get deleted and you may lose it, but it's not going to move. So that's what it does. How this integration works. So I'm fine now. So in theory, I've got it all set up. Now just to close this off. What I didn't do when I was trying this earlier is to see the connection is made, so it's fine. We don't need to do anything with that. So the what I need to do is just have a look at the scheduled jobs. So like with the MailChimp one, there is a sync job that runs this. So this is the push from Civi to Mautic, and this runs however I set it to run, normally daily. You could set it to hourly. I wouldn't set it any less than that, because you're potentially, if the lists are quite big, then you're potentially doing a lot of work every hour, when you don't necessarily need to. It doesn't need to be like real time most of the for most scenarios. So I haven't switched it on. I don't want to. So all I'm going to do is do a quick test and then just run it manually, and just make sure that they those contacts add in. I've got the process webhooks is set and is all automatically enabled. So that will start picking up and listening for events and doing and processing webhooks. Right, so I think that is that. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is actually set up a Civi group. So let's do that. So have I got a group already? I don't think so. No. So I'm going to add a group. I'm going to call it prospect members. It should be the other way around, really. That's fine. It's reserved. Da-di-da. Whether you make this a mailing list or not, these are kind of business decisions. Do I want people to be able to opt in and out of these groups, and how am I managing their comms preferences, etc. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. So now that I've installed the Mautic integration, I get some extra options on group creation. So I can say it's not integrated with Mautic, ignore it, or I can say sync it. And if I say sync it, then I should pick the segment in Mautic that these contacts need to be synced to. So this, for me, it's that TV episode 17. So I will save that. So I've created my group. It's asking me to put someone in it. What I'm going to do is create a new contact. Let's create a new one. So John. Well, I did John before. Let's do Jane. And I'm going to do Jane at Veda Consulting. So I'm just creating a basic kind of contact. No other details on that. I'm not really bothered at this point. There's a Mautic contact, so I don't have a Mautic contact ID at the moment because no syncs happened. So let's go ahead and run the synchronization. So again, I'm just going to pop this in a new tab because it just means I can get back to that contact easy. So there's my Mautic push. So let's go ahead and execute it now. Yes, I'm sure. Please do go ahead and write. So that looks like it's been executed. So I could check the log messages and stuff, but I'm quite a lazy guy, so I'm just going to come straight in here and have a look at the contacts. And there's no one in here. So that didn't quite do what it's supposed to do. Let's have a look. Why is it a dry run? Maybe the settings. Let's have a look. Sorry, let me just jump on a quick chat with someone and find out why that's doing that. Yeah, let me just find out what's going on there. So what I was expecting is this contact to be pushed to Mautic, but that hasn't happened. I wonder why. So I've given them a name and I've given them, oh, stupid. I didn't put them in a group, did I? So let's put them in a group. I'm trying to finish this quickly. I'll be totally honest with you. So, all right, there you go. They're in prospect members. So now, if I go ahead and let me just stand that person down. Right, so now if I run that sync, execute it now, please. Yes, please. It's taking a bit longer, so it's doing something. Let's just have a look at the sync log. It's still saying successful. I don't know why it's saying segment dry run. I think it tries it first and then it actually does a push. So if we come back here now, let's refresh this. Oh, yay. So I've got Jane is now here. And Jane is, I can see what's happened and I can see the contact's been added to the right segment. Right. So now Mautic would normally take over and start doing its thing in terms of contact and engagement, and it will follow the rules that I set up in Mautic. And like I say, in a future episode, probably in 3 weeks, maybe 4, next week I plan to do a bit of how to use rules and then Mautic, and then the week after maybe webhooks back, and then like I say, the 3rd or 4th week I'll go into what some of the stuff that Mautic can do for you if you're in the not-for-profit sector, because that's the only real, otherwise there's plenty of videos out there that you can watch. Why would you watch this one? So I'll try and make it a bit relative to or relevant to CiviCRM stroke not-for-profit installs. But there you can see the basic kind of implementation and install, and a real kind of basic test of the sync of contacts and that it's working. And if I just come back here, let me just see, I haven't checked this ever, so let's just see. There's no Mautic contact ID. Maybe that's the webhook coming back in. Let's just see if I can see this contacts. Edit, maybe. Let's have a look. Yeah. So that's the CiviCRM contact ID. So I can always find out exactly who that is in CiviCRM. And just in case you're wondering, you can always see from the URL what their ID is. If you need to get it quickly, it's also down there if you want to see it. And I'm running the Shoreditch theme, so yours might look different. Okay, so I think that's that. I hope that was useful. Like I said, we've had a few people say they couldn't get the two systems to talk. I found I had the same, not the same, but I had an issue as well, and it was basically the training / on the URL. I hadn't, even though I read I should take it off, I thought I'd taken it off, but it kept it on save, and I couldn't get it to work. And you get some strange kind of error about not being able to find, or some 404 error or something. So that's the only thing I found. Other than that, it should work, and you should be able to get connected. And like I say, stay tuned for the next episode. We'll try and catch up, so we're about two episodes behind, so we'll probably do next week. And like I say, next week will be about more the Civi rules side and getting contacts in that way and making amendments to them, like changing their course of action through Civi events, if you like. And when I say Civi events, I don't mean actual physical Civi events. I mean things that affect a contact in Civi. Cool. I think that's that. No one's on chat and no questions, which is amazing. If you do have any, and if you have any suggestions, that like usual, ideas.CiviCRM.TV, or feel free to reach out to us directly if you want to for a website. And if you have any feedback, please do post questions on YouTube video. Do subscribe if you want to stay informed of what we're up to and keep alerted about new videos and stuff. Thank you very much, and enjoy your weekend.